What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Rice Rocketeer. Thanks for tuning in. If you have not subscribed, guys, make sure to click that subscribe button and make sure to click that like button if and only if you like it. Today's video is going to be similar to what I did a couple posts ago, and that was kind of looking through found footage, so to speak, my archives of footage, because I shoot a lot of stuff that I never use. I use probably like 20% of what I actually shoot. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. So last video was about the Indian FTR, which was a great ride to, I think it was Bear Mountain. And then today's video is going to be the MT-07, a ride that I took out to Long Island. Very similar route to what I usually take, so you'll recognize the roads. But anyway, yeah, let's get into the video. I'm just going to let it play kind of uncut and share my thoughts as we watch. So. So the MT-07 I had for 3 months, I believe it was 3 months, and unfortunately I did a whole video on this. I'll link all the stuff regarding the MT-07 and important videos down below in the description. I had this bike stolen, so I had it for 3 months. I got the first service done, and basically directly after that, somebody clipped the lock. Apparently it was two people who clipped the lock in broad daylight in front of like 10 people, clipped the lock, jumped on it, bump started it, and rode off on it. The cops were like 2 blocks away, and so they were there like a couple seconds after, honestly, to the point that when they notified me, they told me they had seen the bike ride off. And I guess, you know, we have a no chase policy here in the city. I suppose we have that in a lot of places, but there's no chase, so they didn't even try, and they just informed me that my bike had been stolen. Which honestly, in the moment, so what happened was they found somebody who was watching and saw the whole thing, knew that it was my bike and knew where I lived, the neighbor, and they told them. So they just came directly to my door and knocked on the door. And I had thought, when I opened the door, I saw the 2 police officers. I thought they were coming to get me for, I'd been learning how to wheelie, so I thought that they were coming to arrest me for that. That was weird and awkward. But thank God it wasn't that. It was just them letting me know that my bike had been stolen. I don't know which is better. You tell me. But yeah, anyway, MT-07 I had for far too short of a time. Like I said in my previous video, I wish I had had it earlier in my quote-unquote riding career. It should have been my second bike. I got my BMW G310R first, and then I moved to my Indian. Indian got totaled, but it was parked and got hit by another car. And then I got the MT-07, which was then stolen. So I've had a pretty bad track record of accidents, and that didn't include me. But this bike should have been second, because this bike was so much fun. If you've ridden an MT-07 or have a friend who's ridden one, they're just kind of pure machines. No, I think it had ABS, but and traction control, but it's a bare bones motorcycle. Like, you can turn the traction control off. The ABS is ABS, but pretty much standard on every motorcycle now. But no rider modes, no nothing. It was just meant to have fun. And what I took away from owning a Yamaha MT-07 was that Yamaha is all about just producing machines. Like, they are just straight up machines that feel like machines, they're very mechanical feeling, no frills. And you know, while some people might not like that because it doesn't have a lot and maybe the value isn't there, I would argue that it really has some character, and it's really the emotion part of riding motorcycles that most people want. And when I say not a good value, they're valued appropriately. This bike was like $7,500 for what is an amazing bike. Also, something that made this bike really cool was that the engine, it's a cross plane, right? So it's a 270-degree crank, which means that the firing order is different. It's not the typical 180 degrees. So it feels rougher than it really is. And I think that was a Rossi thing that he did to his bike to make it feel more like a bike he was used to. There's some story behind that, but regardless, what it really means is that the bike feels very lively and feels just fun to ride. So on this road right here, this was the first or second time I've really revved the bike out, and that's what I loved about this bike, is I was getting comfortable with revving the bike out and feeling what that power band feels like, something I hadn't previously really done with my Indian or my BMW. I just was too new, and also honestly anyone who rides knows this, or maybe it's just me, but I'm pretty sure it translates to everybody. When you first start revving an engine out, like for your first time doing it, you think you're hurting the engine because it's loud, and you're just not used to the bike being loud, and you're not comfortable with it. So once you wrap your head around, no, that's what the bike is supposed to do, and that's okay. It's supposed to work when you want it to work. Then riding becomes fun. And that was this ride for me. Was, you can see where I'm getting up towards the top. I think it's like 8,000-ish RPM, something around there. At 9, I believe it starts to redline. But I really started to enjoy that power band, feel it. And on this bike, it was like, it really translated through the handlebars, and just, you could feel the bike pick up. It was just such a great feeling. So that's what this whole ride was about, was just pushing the bike, quote unquote, pushing the bike to what I believed the limit to be, and really enjoying that. Even with the stock exhaust, this bike sounds really good. Like, I kind of like, it sounds rattly, it sounds just kind of raw. I like that. And I was considering getting an exhaust. So this is where at first, when I first started riding, I thought, oh, no, you don't need to get an exhaust, whatever. It's just for being extremely loud. This bike kind of emphasized that, because it sounded pretty good without one. So I thought, hey, you don't need it. But then I started watching videos with an exhaust, and I started getting curious, and I started researching different ones, specifically the Acro. I really liked the sound of that one on camera, at least. And I wanted to get that, and I'm really glad. That and the crash bars was the two things that I wanted to get, because I was learning how to wheelie and I just didn't want to drop it. So those two things I was about to purchase. I was very close to purchasing those things, and then the bike got stolen. So I do have to give a shout out to people who stole my bike. Thank you for not having impulse control, because had you waited, I would have spent $2,000-3,000 more on this bike, only for you to steal it. That's the good takeaway from this theft. Start to pick up here. The one mod I did do to this bike was I removed the Mickey Mouse ears, the mirrors, and I got the bar end, the CRG lane splitters, which I actually really liked on this bike. What I learned from that, and I need to do that for my Street Triple now. Removing the mirrors, there's something psychological about not having the sight behind you being, it's good to have mirrors because you can see behind you, but having it forced in front of your face like that is absolutely safer, but it takes away from the experience, and that it kind of splits your attention. So not having those, when I took those off, it was kind of like everything turned to HD. Like, I got a front row seat to the ride that I was already in a front row seat to, but even more front row seat to the ride. So it absolutely changed how I ride. I was a little more aggressive without the mirrors in front of me. So the Street Triple I have now has bar and mirrors, but they kind of like, they're the stock ones, so they're still front and center. They're designed to be in front of your face for obvious reasons, but I think putting the CRG lane splitters on there would be a great upgrade for me, which is soon to come. Coming in the future, whenever I find the money for it. Just cruising here. This is a real comfy spot right here. The other bike too, the the R7 is basically the MT-07 fully fared, geared differently, tuned differently. Did not know that. I was looking at the R7. So when I bought the MT-07, I kind of pulled the trigger on this bike really fast because I was following my Indian. I had my heart broken by my Indian. I was very sad that that bike was gone. So I just needed something to ride for the season, so I pulled the trigger on this. But right next to this was the R7, and I remember going back and forth because I did not understand that the R7 is basically the same. It's a parallel twin, same engine as the MT-07. And I was heavily going back and forth between the two, just based on riding style. Like, did I want a super sporty bike or did I want the MT-07? Which is kind of silly in hindsight because it's basically the same bike. So I mean, it would have made more sense if I was looking at like an R1. They still hadn't made the R6 at that point. So if I went between the R1 and this, that would have made more sense. But when I found out that they were the same engine, I was like, oh, I spent hours for absolutely nothing. And the R7, I think, if anyone has ridden the R7, comment below what your experience was. I'm curious. I would love to test drive it if I could. Many places in New York don't really do that, so I would have to go outside of the city. I don't know. It seems like a good, because I love the MT-07, but I also, part of me really wants a fully faired bike. I don't know if I really, not trust myself, but I don't know if it's a wise decision to get an R1 because it's just so much bike, and this is the type of riding I do. You don't need an R1 to do what I'm doing. You could absolutely do it, but you don't need it. Let me know what your experience down below was, if you think it was, if it's worth the ride, if it's worth ownership. I'd be very curious. Oh, another thing too, I saw an R6 the other day on the street, which is totally unrelated to this video. There's a guy with a beautiful R6. I don't know what year it is, but the thing is in pristine condition. Still has the stickers on the tank, which I suppose means he could have ordered new fairings. That new fairings don't come with that. Either way, beautiful R6 just sitting out in the middle of Soho, and as you all know, they don't make those anymore. I'm so jealous. I know it's not, spec-wise, it's not even, I think the Street Triple is faster, has more everything than that bike, so I don't know what I'm jealous of, but I just love that bike. I think probably because they don't make it anymore. The R1, same thing. I know they're discontinuing, at least in Europe, this year, and that we'll say goodbye to the R1 fairly soon, which is a sad thing too. So I wish I had started riding earlier so I could have gotten my hands on one at some point. A little scream of joy right there. I did not, at this time, I did not have, I think I was playing around with ND filters, which is why this footage is a little, I think the shutter speed is slowed down on this a bit. But I didn't have any of my gear, so I didn't have the external mic, I didn't have secondary camera or anything like that. In fact, I think this might have been shot on my old GoPro, can't remember. Just feeling things out. This is the beginning stages of when I started filming my riding, and I wanted to do this channel. This is pre-Rice Rocketeer. I hadn't thought of Rice Rocketeer yet. Yeah, it's starting to pull a little bit here. There we go. Oh, no, couldn't commit. After having, so this bike, the Street Triple, I guess the bike I've had for the longest was the Indian, but I didn't ride it for the longest because it was in the shop for about half the time I owned it. The Street Triple, the one I have now, the RS, is the bike that I've had for the longest and I've ridden for the longest. I rode all through the winter, I rode all through the summer. I put, what am I, like 5,500 miles right now. I'm close to my first major service, guys. And it's really at that mark, like the 5,000 mark is where you start to really fall in love with the bike. So it's like every bike I've been like super turned on by in the first couple months. And then you hit kind of a flat spot, I think, at least for me, where you enjoy it, but you're not bored of it, but you're acclimated to it, and it's like, yes, this is my bike, and you start looking at other bikes, and you're just curious about what that process feels like. It's kind of like chasing a high, I guess. But then once you get past that, and you realize, like, I don't want to buy more bikes. Well, I do want to buy more bikes, but I don't. It's unrealistic, and just be happy. Just shut up and be happy, right? And then you start relearning your bike in a different way. Like the same bike can be ridden in so many different ways. It can be fun in so many different ways. And then once you realize that, you start to explore it. So for my Street Triple that I have now, it was first finding that first push that I was talking about in my review, which is it's like 5 to 9,000 RPM is where you feel that first surge of power. And that's fun for a while. And then finding that last push up at the top from 10 to 12,000 RPM was the next, phase of learning how to enjoy the street triple for me. And then I went from being against quick shifters to using it almost exclusively now, and then switching back to rev matching down manually. Like all these different things that you go through phases, I guess, of how to interact with your motorcycle. And I never got to that point with the MT-07 because I didn't have it long enough. I didn't get to that point with any of my bikes because I just haven't had them long enough. So the MT-07 I wish I had gotten to that point with, because I think it's capable of so many different styles of riding. It's such a playful bike. Like this doesn't really show how playful it is because it's highway riding, but riding in the city, I have some city footage too. I'll do another video with city footage. It's super fun to bob around. Like not only like the street triple is super flickable. This is almost throwable. That's not really a term, but it's like you can just rip through the street and you can just throw it back and forth. It's super light. I don't remember any of the specs on this bike, but it's super light. The seating position is like super upright, and it's just it's meant to be a hooligan bike. It's meant to do wheelies. It's meant to throw around. It's not meant to be a track bike, although I'm sure you could probably have fun on it. You'd catch a lot of wind, but it just feels like a toy. And that gets back to my point of what Yamaha is. They create machines, they create toys. If you look I was with my girlfriend when we saw the R6, she was like, it looks like a toy. And I was like, well, yeah, that's because I guess it is a toy. Like all Yamahas kind of look like toys. They look like, and they are the quintessential sport bike, right? Like when you're a kid and kid is like, oh, I want a race bike, I want a race motorcycle. They don't even know what motorcycles are fully yet. They think of the Yamaha, the super angular, super toy-like motorcycle. So, which is great and fun. But the MT-07 is that, but not quite as sporty. It's just this throwable machine, which is what made it so great. Where am I? I'm in a parking lot of... Oh, I know this place. Yeah, I stop here often. Woohoo! I think that's my trademark. Many, as I said previous video, many Rick and Morty references in my vlogs recently. I don't know why or what. I haven't watched the show in a bit, but ooh-ee and OGs has come up multiple times. All right, jump straight back to on the road. A lot of traffic. Let's see how I do lane splitting. Little timid here. Okay, come on, let's go. What am I doing? Are we waiting for the truck? Go, 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 go. Yay, there we go, I found the confidence. Oh yeah, so like I said, this ride was all about finding the power band and pushing it. It was also about holding RPM. Like I don't know what my hang up was about, but I didn't fully yet feel comfortable holding it at a higher RPM. Like again, I guess what it is I felt like I was gonna break the bike, or like it wasn't supposed to be that way. I think where that came from was in the break-in period, they tell you not to hold it at a single RPM for too long, and I just like took that principle and applied it to riding forever. So I had this tendency of like revving the bike up and then like letting back off. instead of holding it there. Not that it's good to hold the bike at a high RPM for a long period of time, but it was just, to me, I think I took it to the next level. I just figured if I do that, I'm gonna seriously damage the bike, but the bike is fine. It's meant to be revved out like that. I think you'd have to seriously redline it to do some real damage to the engine long term. So yeah, even at the low RPMs, I remember trying to like hold it at like 4,000 RPM just to see if I could do it, or like to condition myself to ride that way. Okay. Go, 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 go. There we go. Okay, I think I just cut the video. Speeding back up. Here we go. This feels good. I love this turn right here because it opens up. Typically, it opens right up after this bridge right here. It just, I'm going second lane, second lane. Lane two, switch. There we go, a little bit late. Better late than never. Never late is better. Yeah, if I could, I would have done. Okay, so as I said before, I do the BMW. I'm trying to find the footage that I have from my BMW G310R. Not that it's that entertaining, but I think for me, at least for me, it would be interesting to watch it because I was brand new. Like that bike, I was still figuring out the fundamentals of riding. So like when I bought that bike, I stalled it like 4 times on the way home. It was hilarious. Actually, whatever it says about New Yorkers, that New Yorkers are assholes, not fully true, because I was in the Midtown and I stalled that bike twice back to back in front of a bunch of trucks, and they all were like cheering me on, which I don't know if they were making fun of me. They were making fun of me, but that's okay. They were nice about it, and that's all that I care about. I was figuring that bike out, and I would love to see the footage just to see it. I mean, it's been 3 years since then. I have the cut videos that I did in the country, but that was towards the tail end of me having that bike, and there's some footage I had from earlier in that ownership. And again, that bike was 3 months. I had that bike. No, it was about 3 months before I sized up. So, it was, and I put about was it like 1,200 miles on it per month, because I ended around 3,500, something like that. So I put my work in on that bike. I dropped that bike multiple times. I did all my parking lot drills on that bike. Took it to Bear Mountain. I like totally maxed that bike out in terms of speed. I was like in 6th gear all the way at the top end, doing like 90 miles an hour. I did a lot with that bike, and I would love to see that footage if I could find it. So that was my first bike I did. I would have done, if I could rearrange all my bikes, I would have done my MT-07 second, my Street Triple R third, and then probably end at either the Indian FTR or the bike that I have now, the Street Triple R. And I don't mean end, like never buy another bike. I just mean like out of the bikes that I've had, I think that progression would have made more sense. The Indian FTR, actually, I would probably postpone until I'm like 60, because I just feel that bike is a bike you circle back to. Like after you've ridden for a long time, you've gone through your sport bike phase, you've gotten your Harleys, you kind of settled for a Harley and you thought that was going to be it forever, and then you decide you still have some life left in you and you want something a little sportier. Then you go back to maybe the Indian FTR, because it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's somewhere in between there. I think that would have made more sense and been much more rewarding and satisfying and fitting for me. The MT-07, I think, would have been a great second bike. It felt like a downgrade after the Indian, which it absolutely wasn't. The Indian was a far too far upgrade, and then the MT-07 was coming back to reality. So, like everything in life, it's all about contrast and how that feels. So that's why that felt that way. I kind of felt like I got a bad deal, not financially, I just mean like motorcycle-wise. I got a bad deal by having to settle for the MT-07, but nothing about the MT-07 was settling. It was perfect for where I was at. I wish I had had that for 1 to 2 years to really get tired of it and want something more. That would have been ideal. There we go. Go, go, go. This is the fun part. This part is open. Push it, push it. This exit's the best. There we go. Commit a little bit. I don't know if I'd go back to the MT07. I'm curious to try the MT09. So that's a triple. Somebody asked me about that, the difference, like which one they should get. Somebody was considering both. They wanted a triple, and they weren't sure, street triple or Yamaha. And I think the advice that I gave, I guess, was kind of just reiterating what I just said is, in my experience, my limited experience with this one bike from Yamaha. Yamaha creates very unpolished bikes, and they're supposed to be, and that's the character, and that's what makes it fun. Triumph is very polished, which, I don't know, depends on the person. Some people might argue it makes it less characterful, but I don't think the Street Triple is lacking in character in any way, so it's just a very different experience. That was the only thing I could really speak to, having not ridden the MT09. Where am I going here? This is Brooklyn. This is Queens. I'm in Queens now. Or maybe I'm going to LIC. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah, this following, just getting off and following. I think I'm going to LIC. Well, this is the end of the video. Anyway, guys, yeah, that concludes today's review of old riding footage. This was the MT07. This was the 2022 Yamaha MT07, which I had for 3 months. Had a lot of fun with it, not nearly enough. But that's all I got for this video, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.